And we welcome you to the Summerlee Science Complex here at the University of Guelph. The Ontario Agricultural College was founded here in Guelph in 1874. Then Canada's oldest veterinary college moved in as a founding member of the university that we are standing in now. Guelph, though, was already a pretty thriving community at the time. They had flour mills, textile makers, and breweries. Today, it is an internationally renowned center of food science, research, and innovation in farming, and that's some of what we're going to be talking about tonight here at the University of Guelph. And to help us do that, we are delighted to welcome Sylvain Charlebois, professor in the College of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph, Crystal Mackay, who's the CEO of Food and Farm Care, Brian Gilvesi, the proprietor of YU Ranch, Court Desautels, director of operations at the Neighborhood Group of Companies, and with us as well are food regulars, Jamie Kennedy of Jamie Kennedy Kitchens and food activist Joshna Maharaj. And I wonder if I could get a nice Guelph welcome for all of our guests who've come in today. Super. I always like to come to you first to get us started because you always get us started with a bang.
All right.
So let's get into this. Food sustainability.
Yes.
I say that means what to you?
That means, to me, growing, harvesting, sharing, cooking, buying, selling our food in a way that allows it to continue in perpetuity, right? A sort of a phrase that I've heard is, do it in a way that ensures that there is enough for all forever.
And that's distinct from the opposite of which is what?
Which is doing it in a way that is chewing through resources in a way that will require us at some point, not too far down the road, to dramatically change the way we're doing things.
Gotcha. Jamie, what would you add to that?
Well, Joshna, so well put.
Thank you.
That's why I went to her first. Yeah, she's good.
From my perspective, I look at food as a cultural expression. So I look at a genuine cultural expression for Southern Ontario, for example. This is where we're from. So for me, sustainability is to continue that evolution. I'm looking at decentralizing farming. I'm looking at more genuine expressions from small production farms as, say, maybe were the case more than 100 years ago, looking for that as a cue to the future in terms of sustainability.
Okay, all themes we will explore throughout the hour. Let's get our other four in here now. Court, food sustainability. I say it to you, you think what?
I think a lot of different things. To be honest with you, it's a big question. For me, where it starts is just simply knowing where our food comes from, understanding how it gives back to our local economy, and instead of always looking at the way we look at sustainability as a triple bottom line, is that how it works circular. So how is it helping our community? How is it giving back to our community? And how are we supporting each other?
Let me do a quick follow-up there.
Sure.
You say making sure we know where our food comes from. You think people don't know where our food comes from?
I think we might think where our food comes from, but when you start digging in a little bit deeper, you get to the real base of it all. And then it gets into understanding, once you figure out where it's coming from, how are we growing that food, how is it being raised, and the different practices that would then encompass what sustainability means.
Okay, Brian, food sustainability means what to you?
Not to be too technical, but I see the intersection between the environment, health, and the economy. So for example, in our productive system, we want to make sure that we use as many natural resources as we can. So think about a farm that thinks more about being powered by the energy of the sun or driving carbon down from the atmosphere into the soil to make the soil better. To reserve space for pollinators that are important to agriculture. To clean the water actively before it leaves our lands. So environmentally, I think we have a tremendous role to play, but then you intersect with health concerns. That can we in fact be generators of better health outcomes because we're producing healthier food from our land? And of course, the economy is very important to all of that. My economy, my farm economy must do better, and my local economy around me must do better. And I also enjoy speaking to this, that there might be a fourth leg to this sustainability stool, and that's around culture. The sharing of food, the social aspect of it, the family aspect of it, I think is really, really part and parcel of what we can reap from our food system.
Crystal, what's on your list?
I would say I work for and with farmers of all sizes across the country, so this S word is on the agenda all the time.
Sustainability.
Sustainability, absolutely. And for me, I think about what's good for people, what's good for our planet, and what's good for animals. And part of it includes keeping farmers in business and making sure our food is affordable for Canadians.
Sylvain.
Well, you can't be sustainable if you're not profitable. That's where I'm coming from first. We have to make a profit in a social, environmental, responsible way. I would certainly agree with Court in, I think Court is looking at this important issue of knowing where your food is coming from. And it really is distorting the marketplace when it comes to sustainability right now. Not sure right now if people actually know where their food is coming from. It's a big problem.
Well, yeah, I followed up with him, and I want to follow up with you again on this. Okay, I'm reading between the lines here in thinking that what you mean is all you people who live in those condominiums in downtown Toronto, you think food comes from the kitchen of your local restaurant, but in fact, we got to go back. Is that, am I getting close here?
It's traceability, absolutely. A lot of people in this room, including myself, were big believers in the local food movement, if you want to call it that way. But lots of times, we may not buy what we think we're buying. Whether it comes from trades, right now, Canadians actually buy for about $3.6 billion worth of food coming from Italy, thinking it's coming from Italy, but it's not.
It's really coming from where?
Counterfeiting. That's a big issue. And it's very difficult to prove. We see it in seafood, we see it in meats, products, vegetables. People visit farmers markets, and they should continue to do that. But that authenticity and that trust is a fragile thing, and we need to take care of that. So that would make for a very sustainable model.
Crystal, do we have an authenticity problem here, a fraud problem with food?
Well, I can't speak to that specifically. I can say we've surveyed the Canadian public, and 93% say they know little or nothing about farming or how their food is grown. And there's no difference between rural and urban anymore. So we used to think it was a city person thing, they just don't get farming, and now it's just a Canadian thing. So, but the good news is there's a huge opportunity because the interest in knowing where their food comes from and how it's grown has never been higher.
Court, people in rural Canada don't know where food comes from?
Well, I think that's where it might be a little bit different. I think when we live in these major urban centers and you go into a grocery store, you're given this opportunity to see this huge bounty of food. And same thing going through a farmer's market. You walk through and you see all this food that must be grown locally, with the exception of the obvious tropical fruits and whatnot. The folks in the rural areas are the ones who are growing those foods. So they know what's growing in season. They know what's available. They know in the wintertime in Canada that we're eating carrots, potatoes, parsnips, maybe a little bit of squash, and we're very limited in those senses. But right now, with the availability that's out there, it's causing a lot of brand confusion in what we see as local foods and what's available to us in a seasonal basis.
Brian, let me try to better understand your connection to this issue. So start by telling us, what is it you do?
We have a unique farming operation in that we've had the opportunity to reinvent ourselves in our community. We used to all grow tobacco in my county.
Which is where?
It's Norfolk County. In 1993, we switched our operation to raise Texas Longhorn cattle. We raise them in range conditions on grass only. Our farm is 100% grass. We market out our beef by the pound under our label exclusively. So that's what we do. Regarding the traceability issues, we are very jealously protective of our brand and work only with trusted partners because it is an issue. Greenwashing in the food system is a massive issue. That's my bigger concern.
Greenwashing? Good.
Many environmental claims or claims about food that are only serving to confuse the consumer.
Because they claim to be environmentally sustainable, but they're not really? Is that what you're saying?
There's what went into the food, what the cattle were fed, for instance, whether they had hormone or antibiotic. There's much confusion. I saw a sign in a restaurant shop window the other day that they served farm-raised chicken. Well, I don't know where else you would obtain it.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't lying then, were
Yeah.
they? They weren't lying.
The obvious,
point,
yeah.
Good. Josh, now let me get you in on this. I'm listening to all these different themes and all of what makes up sustainability here. We are trying to be sensitive to carbon footprints. We are trying to be sensitive to humanely raised animals, the economics, as Sylvain has told us as well. What do you think the chances are of everybody who's got a piece of this action actually finding a consensus on all of these things?
I think it's low. It's little, right? And one of the curiosities of this particular movement is the fact that you have to figure out what your personal priorities are in order to navigate it all. Because some folks are really hot on local eating, other folks think that organics is really the way to go. And you can't always have everything all the time. Right? So it's really tricky. The amount of literacy that's required to figure out what to put in your mouth is, I was saying earlier, it feels like it's higher than it's ever really been in human history because there's so many pieces to pay attention to. And the good news side of that story is that we can actually get the kind of change that we're looking for with a little bit of action from everybody. And because we're talking about food, it's totally doable.
Jamie, how about you? Finding that consensus among all these different interests.
It's a process. I think the conversation has been started, Steve. You know, I don't think we'd be sitting here having this same conversation 20 years ago.
That's right.
And you got to start somewhere. It's a big ship that has to turn around. It calls into question how we have approached our economy. We've moved away from local community-based economies to a global economy, and there are good reasons for that. And the consumers have had the benefit of having cheap food for a long time. And I think that we need to kind of rejig our sensibilities around food and understand that the true cost of food isn't what we've been paying for the last 60, 75.
Let me follow up on that. You put cheap in inverted commas, meaning what? Our food is really not cheap?
Our food is, there's this perception of cheap and being able to provide consumers and citizens with inexpensive food in order to feed them, and there's, but the backstory behind that, Steve, is a story of subsidies, of taking away the true value of food from the marketplace and replacing it with something that's brought in through legislation, and it's a much bigger story. So when we talk about switching, clearly, and people ask this question all the time, why is local food so expensive? Well, perhaps it's operating outside of that larger system of determining the cost of food.
Sylvain, you want to follow on that?
I agree with Jamie. I think higher food prices is actually making all the conversations around food more democratic. You may actually think that because food prices are moving up, it's actually excluding people, but it's actually including more people into the conversation, asking themselves, what is the perfect food system for us? And the answer is to your point, it's quite heterogeneous. There's a variety of different solutions, and I don't think people actually recognized that 20 years ago. There was one model that was predominant 20 years ago, but now there are different little systems emerging, which actually is making all of the food conversation even more interesting.
I've noticed in our audience here today the leader of the Green Party of Ontario, who's run a couple of times in this city? Once in this city, okay. How'd you do?
I did all right.
You did
20% of the vote.
Okay, all right. The conversation here seems to be leading to a conclusion that politics at some point is going to get involved in this, and we'll have to help find a solution to all of this. Is that doable?
Absolutely. And the question I would have for the panelists would be, if you were meeting with the Premier right now, how can we leverage all this interest in local food and supporting local farmers? What kind of policies could help facilitate that and leverage it into jobs and more local food getting on people's plates?
Before you answer that, did I say your name?
I don't know if you did. I'm Mike Schreiner.
Mike Schreiner's his name, just in case I forgot to say it. Thank you, Mike. Okay, appreciate the contribution. Josh, you want to jump on that?
I would love to see some earmarks for purchasing of local food by public institutions. That would guarantee some business and some stability around our small business and agricultural economy while also still putting better food into public institutions. I'd love to see the province take some leadership to give us some really ambitious numbers, so that we can all work up to that. The work that I do proves that that is a really solid and sustainable way to go about nurturing a local food system.
Who wants else on that? Go ahead, Sylvain.
I would say that we need to address the food processing crisis that we're facing in Ontario. We've seen many plants close over the last few years, and we talk often about food sovereignty and food security. We often talk about primary production, but you can't address food sovereignty, as far as I'm concerned, properly unless you look at prime production and processing value add. And if you actually build that capacity in the province, I think we'll be better off.
I see Crystal nodding her head. You're on side with that?
Absolutely. I think it needs to be more of a holistic conversation. We've got, we're going to double jobs in agriculture and food, but then we're going to do this environment program over here and this health program over here. It needs to be more of a holistic conversation to be effective.
Okay. Let's, there have been a couple of really big developments in some of what we've been talking about today, and I want to put a couple of these things on the table here. For example, in the fall, McDonald's, fairly big operation, decides to switch to cage-free eggs. They're going to do that over the next decade. I see Tim Hortons and Burger King have decided to follow suit. And I wonder, who's going to start on this? You want to start on this, Corb? What kind of an impact is this going to have across the industry when big players like this make these kinds of moves?
It has a positive impact, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not the kind of person who's eating at those establishments, but the impact that it has at a dollar, their economical impact that it has to encourage, these chicken farmers to switch their operations over is positive. There's a good outcome to it. It needs to go a little bit further, but at least it's creating awareness, and I can't knock them for that. I have to give them a little tip of the hat.
You think it's unambiguously good news?
Yes.
Yes? Sylvain, is it?
Ambiguously good news, I'll take that. Yeah. I'd say, it was a very interesting signal coming out of McDonald's last year. I would say that for the first time we saw a mega enterprise recognizing the currency of animal welfare. Mm-hmm. Dealing, and you have to give a lot of credit to McDonald's, but also to egg farmers as well. Mm-hmm. Now, understanding the supply management regime we face, we have in Canada, it's a pretty strict regime.
And they adapted quickly?
And they've adapted. And the same goes with chicken, with the announcement just a few months later with McDonald's. And then after that, we saw a lot of other companies follow McDonald's. So I think 2015 was a watershed year when it comes to animal welfare in general, which will add more value to our food system moving forward.
But Josh, I gather they're going to have, they're going to take 10 years to sort of make this happen, right? This isn't going to happen overnight.
No.
So are we okay with that?
Well, listen, I'm a firm believer that real change happens slowly, but what I really do want to caution is that you can't always take everything at face value. Yes, cage-free eggs sounds wonderful, but why were the chickens in cages in the first place? Antibiotic-free meat sounds amazing, but what is the system that existed to put antibiotics in this meat in the first place? And there's all these other things. Maybe they didn't live in a cage, but what did they eat? How were they, what was the process around which these birds were killed? There's still a lot more information. So this is a great step one. The awareness, as my colleagues have said, the fact that we have a corporation as giant as McDonald's paying attention and understanding that their market is paying attention is awesome. But we still have to keep our minds open to what is really being said about what's happening.
Okay, Crystal, for those who don't know, what's the problem with chickens in cages and making their eggs that way?
Sure. Well, to go back to your point, we put them in cages for a reason for animal welfare 50 years ago because we didn't know how to feed large number of birds in groups. The pecking order is called the pecking order for a reason. Hens didn't all get the memo to be friendly like Disney. So we put them in there for a reason, and farmers are continuously improving, right? So as we've studied how to feed large numbers of hens in groups while having safe eggs and good worker conditions, when you know better, you do better. So it's a natural progression. I would say there are a lot of egg farmers out there right now that are holding up a caution flag that just says, you know what, we're not 100% sure on cage-free or free range altogether just yet, and what should that system look like? So there's one point to put a press release out saying this is directionally where we're going to go, but my friend, the egg farmer that's going to spend $2 million building a new barn in the next month, he's got some serious questions about engineering and design and health and many other things that is way more than a press release and a marketing claim. Yeah, but it's directionally, it's right. It's the evolution of, we didn't used to wear seatbelts when I was a kid, and my parents smoked in the car. So we can do better, and I would say the same for animal welfare. My caution that I would hold up on behalf of many of my farm friends is that we have reasonable discussions about what's truly good for animals versus what's a marketing claim that might be a company's advantage.
Okay, let me pick up on that. You're a farmer. Does this sound like the real deal to you, or more of just marketing?
I'd like to mimic what Josh says. It's a really good start. For me, it's not McDonald's speaking as much as they're hearing their customers. The people that are putting the food in their mouths are the ones that they're reflecting their wishes. And I think McDonald's is wanting them to change the system they're in. For me as a farmer on the land, I see this as driving value to me. It highlights my skills and my abilities rather than having my value created in a marketer's workshop. So I think it's a really good start to create opportunities for us on the land.
Jamie, I want to follow up on that angle there. Have you seen demonstrations at the corner of Yonge and Bloor in Toronto of people demanding this change? Because I haven't. Now, maybe I just missed them, but when Brian says they're just following the demands of what their customers want, really?
No, yeah, absolutely.
They are.
I view this as a tremendous victory for people involved in the local food movement. I'm cynical at the same time, but truly, for McDonald's to react this way, they are listening to their customer base. They're listening to a public that understands so much more, or questions so much more, the provenance of their food.
You did say you were cynical. Where does that come from?
Well, the cynicism is that McDonald's is a large corporation. I haven't dined in a McDonald's for 30 years at least. I wouldn't call it dining.
Jamie.
Sorry.
He just goes through the
Monoculture
drive-thru.
versus diversity to me is, don't go there. I talk about developing or evolving culture for Southern Ontario. I'm not interested in getting the same burger in Tokyo as I'm going to get in Anchorage, Alaska.
God, I see where the cynicism is coming from. Okay, I get it here. Crystal, to the follow-up of the issue before about the $2 million that your friend is going to have to spend on the new barn.
Right.
Is that farmer going to get that money back?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Steve, because as an example, to go from hens in cages to a free run system, there's a 30% less birds that will go in that same environmental footprint. So when California passed the cage-free ballot a few years ago, it was a big animal welfare debate. So going back to my earlier point about we need a more holistic conversation, it can't just be animal welfare on a limb by itself. You have to look at food affordability, environmental footprint, a more holistic look at the whole system. So when McDonald's or companies like that make statements, that's great. But what annoys me personally is when they say at the same cost, the Egg McMuffin's not going up. And I say, wait a minute, if it costs 30% more to produce that kind of egg, why can't we put the appropriate price tag on it with it to go back to the farmer that has to make these multi-million-dollar changes?
Let me do one more follow-up with you, though, on this pecking order that you talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, without getting too gross here, but I imagine they put the birds in cages to begin with so they wouldn't peck each other's eyes out and peck each other to death, right? That was part of it.
Right.
So now they're not in cages.
Right.
So they're going to be doing that again?
Yes. So my degree is animal science. I studied here, so this is kind of my thing. In a cage, it's a small group, so they very quickly determine who's the hen boss and who's not, and then they stop fighting. When you have them in a large group, it's a continual, like a bully in the schoolyard scenario. So the stats show, there's higher mortality in the free-run system than there would be in a cage. But it's a trade-off. This is not a simple science. You can't just say this is better and this isn't. There's red, yellow, green. Some things are better, some are worse. So
and how many birds would there be in an entire allotment like that?
In a traditional cage, there's 4 to 7 birds in a traditional cage. There's a new system called aviaries, which is like an enriched system, which has 50 birds in a larger cage with some more space and some furniture. And then the free run is as you'd expect, where it's just literally free run. They go wherever they want. So each system has pros and cons. But as people that maybe have never seen a chicken, I just say it's really important that we look at welfare research and look at the whole system to say what's actually good for the chicken. I don't want to live in a dark cave like a bat, but that serves bats' needs really well, right? Same thing with chickens. We're not chickens. We can't put human values on them, but we can say directionally we want them to have some more space.
One more question. If we're talking now cage-free,
Right.
so they're all together,
Right.
we talking 100, 500, 1,000?
Birds in a barn?
Yes.
Oh,
all
you could
together?
have, that's the beauty of Canadian farming. You could have 100 birds or you could have 100,000. The options are depending on your barn size. So
There might be barns with 100,000
Right.
in Canada.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, it's an interesting story because I grew up on a farm with 500 chickens, and I lived on a broiler chicken farm with 30,000. And with modern feeding and watering and heat and air conditioning, I genuinely felt I could do a better job of caring for 30,000 birds than I did the 500 that I pail fed with water and feed. That you can actually look at the birds, you don't have to worry about the feed and water side. So to me, size, I know it's a little saying, size doesn't really matter when it comes to farming, it's absolutely about the people and their values and how much they care for the species they have.
McDonald's buy 120 million eggs a year to feed us. That's what they buy. You would need 3.2 million chicken full-time to produce that amount of egg. With this new approach, we don't exactly know how many chickens, but it's probably going to be way more, I suspect.
More than 3 million.
And somebody's going to have to pay for that.
And 30% more space.
Absolutely. That's why I talk about currency. And that's McDonald's call. In 10 years from now, the consumer will be willing to pay more for its eggs than now. That's the call they're making.
Sylvain, let me follow up on that. If this is all going to cost more, and there are still plenty of people in our communities who are spending about as much as they possibly can to feed themselves, what does this mean for them if the price of food goes up?
That's why with time, of course, a lot of things can change. There is some momentum with food prices, and there's no doubt about that. It will cost more. But it's not just a bad thing. It's actually, I think, a desirable thing over the long term because our food prices have stagnated for quite some time. For 2 decades, they weren't moving. Let me give you just one example of why I have a lot of hope when it comes to food or the food space. In the United States right now, consumers are saving a lot at the gas pump. Gas is cheap. So you're wondering, where is that money going? Well, $3 out of 10 are going to the restaurant. Food service. People are actually spending their savings on food even more. And I suspect the same thing is happening in Canada. So food in general is really attracting a lot more attention, and I suspect that people will be willing to spend more, invest more in nutrition in the future.
Okay, let me do a little business here because we're about halfway through our program. Time flies when you're having a fun time talking about 100,000 chickens laying eggs. We're here at the Summerlee Science Complex at the University of Guelph. We are considering our province's food sustainability issues, and we're doing it tonight with Court des Hotels, who's the Director of Operations at Neighborhood Group of Companies. Sylvain Charlebois is here, the professor in the College of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph. Brian Gilvesi, the proprietor of YU Ranch. Crystal Mackay, the CEO of Food and Farm Care. And with us as well, our food regulars whom you watch on TVO most Monday nights. There's Jamie Kennedy of Jamie Kennedy Kitchens and Joshna Maharaj, the food activist, as she likes to call herself. Okay, returning to the issue of, let's say, antibiotic-free meats. Crystal, you first. A&W says they're going to be doing this now.
Right.
And again, let's get your view. Is it a good move?
Well, I would say directionally, if you went to any grocery store and pulled off samples of any meat products, whether it's fish or chicken or beef, and tested them all, they're all hopefully going to be antibiotic-free. So the concept of labeling it that, if you ask every Canadian, do you think your meat should be antibiotic-free? Of course, who wants antibiotics in their meat? So let's start with the baseline is we have safe food in Canada. We have amazing meat inspection systems. We have farmers that are trained on how to treat animals. So that's a base. And then when somebody turns up the noise on a marketing claim to say raised without antibiotics or antibiotic-free meat, it's kind of like antibiotic-free water. Maybe pay a little extra and get the marketing advantage. So my role is to make sure Canadians can make informed decisions about their food. And I want people to feel confident that you can go to the grocery store and buy regular meat and it'll still be as good as that one that may have the claim on it. The difference where I take exception is when they say raised without antibiotics ever. Going back to animal welfare is kind of my thing. The surest way to cause suffering is to withhold treatment of an animal. So if I ask Canadians, do you want antibiotics in your meat? They'll say no, obviously. I answer that as well. But do you think a sick animal should be treated? They'll say yes. And I say we can have it both ways. You can have good animal well-being and treat a sick animal and have antibiotic-free.
Is that right, Joshua? Can you have it both ways?
I think you can, but I think that it is about it's about a much smaller operation. This is my curiosity. It's great to say that, but to me that suggests that some pretty dramatic changes need to be made to the way these birds or these animals are being raised, because it's by nature the fact that they're all forced together that the infection grows and the need for antibiotics shows up in the first place. The idea of more locally and in an isolated way addressing the issue makes sense. It's just like pesticides on a farm, right? Instead of blanketing the whole farm, let's figure out where the pests and the issues really are and deal with those on the local level. But again, the question marks arise about who is paying for this.
Brian, remind us, what do you do on your farm?
I raise cattle.
And what's the antibiotic situation like on your farm?
We use antibiotics therapeutically, so if an animal's got a cut udder and has got an infection, we will treat that animal. Doesn't happen very often. We refuse to feed antibiotic, and that's the difference. Antibiotics are fed to many of the animals in North America. And the pushback from the consumer perspective and from the medical experts is we're creating antibiotic resistance that are crossing over to some of the bugs that are affecting us as humans. The antibiotics are used in feed as a efficiency measure to create more efficiency, to create more daily gain, that sort of thing. So, but on our place, we refuse.
And what are the implications, in your view, long range, of too many antibiotics going into too many animals for not adequate reasons?
Well, one of the sticking points in agriculture is that we're using many techniques, many of the tools that we're allowed to use prophylactically before there's problems, or to help avoid problems down the road. I think that's a dangerous approach, and I think that's why some of the antibiotic resistance is beginning to become an issue more and more. We hear it from our consumers. That's their concern. And I would say that part of what informs me is what we hear from people that eat our product, people that are on the internet, because these issues are not hidden anymore. The internet has made everything very, very transparent, and we're hearing we're hearing the pushback.
Cord, is this an issue?
It's definitely an issue, but it's like going back to what we were talking about before. It's about the education and understanding what we're talking about. We're talking about antibiotic, hormone-free, et cetera. How are we using those things? It's such a generalized term. So where Brian on his farm, cattle's sick, you're going to administer antibiotics like I would with my child if she has some kind of sickness. But it gets down to, is there a farm that's just feeding it in its normal daily routine? And that's where people don't understand the two differences. So you're saying it's antibiotic-free. Is it continually, were they doing it at the beginning and then wean them off the antibiotics and then it became antibiotic-free, for a 3-month digestive period or wherever it would be? So it's just getting down to education and how do we categorize these different segments?
Well, let me follow up, Brian. Are you at a competitive disadvantage because you don't stuff antibiotics down your animals when they're not sick?
No, I think, to be perfectly fair, we're creating the conditions where the consumer now has choices. And there are consumers that are perfectly fine with those practices. Our consumers a little bit differently. That allows us to be different. That allows us to create a brand identity around our environmentalism and our animal welfare practices. So that's an interesting point. People can choose to shop with us, or they can choose to shop elsewhere.
Well, if they go elsewhere, Crystal, let's say the big restaurant chains, which Jamie loves to eat at so much, as we know. If they want to go hormone or antibiotic free, do we necessarily infer from that they're not going to be shopping local for that food?
Well, first of all, there's a big difference between hormone and antibiotics. So there's no species that are approved for hormones in Canada except beef. So when you see hormone-free dairy or pork or fish, that's just absolutely false, misleading advertising. So then let's think about antibiotics. I think the really key difference is this point about have they been fed antibiotics versus have they been treated with antibiotics, and that's absolutely evolving. So this concept of if we use Purdue chicken in the US, one of the biggest chicken suppliers in the world, used to feed 100% antibiotics to every bird. And I just studied their case study recently. They're now only feeding antibiotics to 5% of their millions of birds because they've learned how to manage birds in groups now without it, which is awesome. So directionally, absolutely the right way. Because as a farm girl who eats the same chicken and feeds my kid the same chicken, I want to be sure that we have antibiotics available when our kids are sick and when our birds are sick too, right? So directionally, absolutely on track.
In your view, do companies need to be shamed into taking those actions, or are they more proactive in doing so?
Well, I'd like to hope that every company would be proactive in owning the fact that antibiotics are a really important tool for people and animals, but there are market realities that would say some people need to be pressured into it. Directionally, now we have some big companies making those leadership decisions. We also have government direction and chief veterinarians, like chief medical officers, saying we need medicines that are important for humans first for humans. So I think the ball is really rolling in the right direction, and they don't need the pressure anymore.
And one more quick one. Next time Jamie goes to A&W and orders himself a Papa Burger, which we know he does 3-4 times a week, where's that meat coming from?
Well, A&W has been sourcing meat outside of Canada because they couldn't meet the supply they wanted with their claims that they wanted with Canadian beef. So this is where we get dichotomous views about what's more important. Do you want to buy Canadian? And if we ask most people, do you want to buy Canadian? It will trump organic and any other claims they want to buy from a guy like Brian versus offshore products.
I'm going to stop teasing Jamie now and ask him a legit question. And that is, as you look at this and you have to weigh options here about whether it's more important to put a value on buying local or smaller carbon footprint or antibiotic-free animals, how do you weigh those priorities?
That's a great question, Steve. I mean, I think I talk about the local food movement and an advocate for local food procurement. But the truth is, I mean, I love my chocolate. I love my citrus fruits. I love my coffee. Oh my God. So I think it's important to not be too dogmatic when it comes to this issue, but to do what you can, right? And in the name of culture, doing what I can means connecting with local producers, looking for excellence in the local community as a true expression, as a true cultural expression of what we're capable of doing right here in Southern Ontario. And having been involved in this quest, let's say, or this path for the last 25, 30 years, it's been a wonderful journey, a wonderful cultural journey. It's put me in front of so many people. The network, the community has grown stronger and stronger over this time, and we are developing a gastronomy here in Southern Ontario, which I should point out is being repeated throughout North America and other parts of the world as a new consciousness about food and where food comes from and how it's procured.
Joshna, in your view then, how do you weigh those differing priorities?
I get asked this question a lot, right? And ultimately, I think that I would like to say that everybody should have good, solid access to as much local organic food as they possibly can. But that is not a reality that's in front of us right now. And so for the purposes of that argument, my heart says that local trumps pretty much everything else. Right? The idea that we invest in ourselves and in our community feels to be the top of the list to me. The conventional growing, we can accept conventional growing in the context that it was grown just down the road, and then maybe there's opportunity for, once that farmer has some strength, there's an opportunity for the community to encourage some rethinking on the growing practices, right? There's a way that we can sort of work together to that. But the chance that we have to cultivate community around us and to to pay more attention to our immediate communities is too great to give up, which is why I am as huge an advocate of local eating as I can be.
Do you know what was neat about that answer?
Tell me.
That's the first time I've heard the word Trump used on television in the last 6 months, which didn't refer to American politics, so thank you for doing that. Okay, Sylvain, does all of what we've just heard from these two sound realistic to you?
Absolutely. Let me go back to the A&W campaign. I agree with Crystal. It really caught the industry by surprise because they thought, well, let's sell Canadian goods as much as we can and we'll be successful because that's what people are looking for. And here comes A&W. I actually had a chat with the CEO of A&W this week in Toronto. And so I was asking her, how's the campaign? Very successful, highly successful, but you're procuring meat from Montana and Australia. How does that work? So my guess is that there's lots of confusion out there. We do have access to the internet. Brian talked about transparency. There's lots of data, but we're dealing with highly confused consumers, and it's hard for any business to make sense out of what's going on. I would say that, well, the A&W marketing campaign is interesting. It gives us some indication of where the market is going, but we need to also address what I call the moral economy in food. It means, well, yeah, go ahead and make a jazzy campaign and show that you care, but you have to really show the whole picture, the big picture, what it means.
Okay, but
to your point earlier.
when we see those commercials where they've got that guy in the street and they're asking everybody to sort of, did you know that, ...
Yeah.
Brian, we're not really expecting that guy to say, and did you know that even though this hasn't been treated with antibiotics, it's actually coming in from Australia?
Yeah.
We're not expecting him to say that, are we?
No, but on the other hand, there's opportunity here. There's opportunity.
What's the opportunity?
Well, for Canadian cattle raisers to fill that void, right? I mean, if A&W is procuring meat in this fashion, is there not opportunity for somebody in this country to supply that and make their story even stronger? I would say that would be the next level we could get to on this.
But if that opportunity, which has presumably existed for a while now, how come it hasn't been filled yet?
That's a $1 million question, isn't it?
Well, what prevents it from being filled? Are we not ready for it?
On the production side?
Yeah.
Because it's a production question. Crystal, maybe
We can't produce enough to satisfy A&W's
I don't know
needs?
the answer, Steve. I would say part of it is you need a lot of volume with a traceability system from the farm through to the processing plant. It's not as simple as saying we're going to just buy 5 cows for a local dinner. It's ongoing, consistent, and traceable. And I don't know enough about that specific side to give you any more detail.
We have somebody in the audience here today. Anita, where are you? There you are, right here. You want to just stand for a second? This is Anita Stewart. You've been on our program before, a couple of years ago. You're I know what a poet laureate is. You're a food laureate.
Yes, I am.
You're a food laureate here at the University of Guelph.
I am.
Okay, what does that mean?
I'm a storyteller.
And your stories are?
About the University of Guelph and the food system here. You know, Jamie, to your point, this conversation 20 years ago would not have happened. It would not have happened here at the University of Guelph either.
Why not?
Well, I think there have been many silos over the years, and also, too, the whole food culture around the university is becoming more and more prominent. We're starting to recognize the fact that farmers aren't growing commodities, they're growing ingredients so that cooks and home cooks can create civilization. And so that's what it's all about. So here at the university, we have everything from the largest Canadian cookbook collection on the planet, a huge archives of agricultural and culinary works.
And I've read yours.
Yes, thank you.
You got a nice one.
I
Yeah.
have a couple, actually. I'll send them along.
Didn't mean to downplay your achievements. Sorry. Okay.
That's all right. But, and they're all here at the University of Guelph, too. But we've got things like the Barcode of Life project. It's a central focus point and we're cataloging life on Earth. We've got Mike Dixon, who's doing a Mars project with the International Space Agency and growing plants in outer space. We've got a fantastic, of course, beekeeping, cheese making, all of these things.
What does it say to you, though, Anita, that we're having this conversation today about our awareness and understanding of these issues?
It's really awesome. It's absolutely wonderful. This is exactly where we need to go, and hopefully the next step will be that consumers, by and large, will learn how to cook, then all else will follow. Because once we learn how to cook, we'll be able to talk to people like Brian and understand what Court is saying, and Jamie and Josh and Crystal and Sylvain, because Sylvain's a good cook, I've heard.
Come over tonight.
Yeah. But and it will be the next stage of our development as a culinary nation, and hopefully someday we'll have courses in Canadian gastronomy here at the University of Guelph. To me, that's the next step here.
Cool. Nice. Thanks for that. Appreciate you. What are we having for dinner tonight, Sylvain, that you're cooking since you're inviting everybody over?
Well, actually we'll have bacon and some sausages that I just bought on Friday from in the Simcoe area. Awesome. So yeah, locally grown. Absolutely. I don't think they'll have enough. I'll have enough for everyone.
Yeah.
So make a reservation.
Yeah.
I know everybody thinks bacon is fabulous, but would you be prepared to go on the record to say it's not all that healthy for you?
Well, the WHO believes so.
Believes it is healthy.
It is not.
It is not healthy, right?
Yeah, I would say it's like anything. Once in a while, it's not harmful. I'm a carnivore. I assume it. We actually did a survey last fall. The Food Institute did a survey on beef consumption because beef prices have gone up so much. We were wondering, well, are people walking away from beef? They're not, actually. They're consuming less, but they're still committed to the commodity, actually.
Brian is thrilled to hear that.
Absolutely. Just so you know.
Do you ever worry that you're in an industry that who knows, 50 years from now may not even be around anymore, because there is an intense amount of pressure, actually, to get people to eat a lot less meat? You see it, I'm sure.
I think we live it. I think we're pretty proud that we can make a beef that is more nutrition dense, that doesn't require as big a quantity to fill you up, that people can go home and cook and get a very satisfying experience out of. You get the whole ball of wax out of it. And balance, of course, in anybody's diet is really, really important. Don't forget, I think the numbers are something like 40% of the food that we buy is wasted. So maybe portions, thinking about smaller portions and not wasting so much food is probably an important part of our future as well.
40% is wasted, meaning we put it on our plates, we don't eat it, and then just throw it out even though it's perfectly fine?
Josh, now you know more about that.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's
Josh?
it's
40%.
around that.
Yeah,
There's a lot. And the very structure of a grocery store is inherently quite a wasteful operation as well. Because if things aren't used, they often get pitched. So food waste is something that is pretty high on a lot of people's radars these days. Because it makes absolutely no sense that volume of food is wasted when we still have Canadians, Ontarians going to sleep without any food in their tummies.
Okay, we're down to our last 10 minutes here, and one of the things we often like to do at the end of these sort of big thematic conversations is take a look into the future and see where we're going. So I want to get a better sense in our remaining moments here. Just, Crystal, start with you. All of these themes that we've been talking about, where do you see it all going over the next 10, 20 years?
I think I'd like to reflect something Jamie said about the conversations have started and what we've categorized how people grow food. Are you small and organic? Are you big and factory? And we've categorized people. I think the fact that the largest chicken farms are adopting practices that someone with 50 chickens might have. It's getting blended. It's not about the size or style of your farm. It's if you're committed to healthy, affordable food for Canadians, then we can have a conversation. So directionally, this concept of feeding more people on less land, more efficiently, with less waste, and let's have an open, transparent conversation acknowledging it's not perfect, and you can have, and I would just say really embrace isn't choice awesome, and the fact we live in a country with that we can go to the grocery store and what kind of egg you want is a 10-minute conversation is amazing, right? So to just really embrace the fact that we live in this country with that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that we're way up here, and other places you might go and just say, wow, I'm happy to have an egg, and will it make me sick? We don't even start with there, right? We start with how is the chicken raised and how does it impact the environment? Isn't that awesome? And I just think in the next 20 years, that'll evolve, to be more, less in silos and more a holistic conversation across the food system.
What are you going to do about people like me who, when they go into a supermarket and they see 85 different kinds of eggs, and they're large and they're small and they're double yolk and all, and I just want to get into the fetal position and cry because I don't know what to do?
Absolutely.
What do I do?
Yeah, we have virtual farm tours online, and the eggs ones are excellent. So you can go on there and say, what does it look like inside a barn with 100,000 hens, by the way? And what does free run, free range, organic, conventional, what do they all look like? And just have the choice and embrace it if you want. And other people that are busy, I got to get home to the kids and get to hockey practice, that's okay too. Grab the eggs and go and know that they're safe.
Court, what's the future look like to you?
Future to me is everybody's just becoming, and I see it happening already, more emotionally connected to the people who are raising their foods. And I've done an unbelievable amount of studies in our restaurants, and the number one thing that deters people away from making the right choices is cost. But more people are gearing towards that, and the more people that are supporting those systems, the costs are actually coming down, as Sylvain would know. And we're going to see this whole change where people are going to want to know the stories, where the foods come from, how it's been raised, and simply just the importance of what it does to them inside for their health.
You're seeing evidence of that. People want to know more.
People want to know more, and people right now don't want to pay more. And that's the divide right now. But those times are changing. And once you start to see a lot of the health, how people's health is being affected right now by a lot of things that we're eating and what's happening with the environment, people are going to make a shift to making a more holistic approach to buying food.
Can we, Brian, come to the sweet spot where people want to know more, they want to do better, they want to have higher quality, but they don't want to pay any more? We going to find that sweet spot?
I think the opportunity is this. We're redefining what emerges from our farms from a value perspective. And if from our farms we're creating better environments, cleaner air, cleaner water, more pollination services, et cetera, if from our farms we're creating better outcomes, then all of a sudden we built a broader understanding of value of what can emerge from our farms. I think that speaks to opportunity. We've got the chance here to change our food system substantially from something that's providing fuel for humans to something that's providing nourishment. And I mean in every sense of the word, nourishing our communities, nourishing our land, nourishing wildlife and biodiversity, and of course ourselves. So I think it's a neat time for me as a farmer because I think the future looks rosier. I think people are understanding the talents that farmers have and what they can bring to us as a society.
And as Jamie says, nourishing our imaginations and our creativity all to boot.
Yes, of course.
Let's not forget that angle as well. Sylvain, as you look into the future, what are you seeing?
I think Brian is bang on. I think over the next 10 years, we'll go through a process of redefining what growth means for our food industry. I'll give you an example, Loblaw. Loblaw, 34% of everything we eat as Canadians is sold by Loblaw. It's almost a $50 billion business. They generated a profit of about $500 million, barely. And it gets even worse in processing. Margins are basically shrinking. And that's why I think when I hear things like the local food movement, animal welfare, fair trade even, for me, these are value adds that need to be nurtured as much as possible because to increase your top line as a business, it's probably the only way to do it. People will be eating less. Boomers are getting older. In 10 years from now, the millennials will be driving our economy, but they'll probably have less children. And they'll be consuming differently. They'll be looking for these value adds. And boomers, unfortunately, will be eating less because when we get older, we eat less.
You know what the millennials will be doing, though? More of. They will be taking more pictures of what they're eating and uploading it.
Instagram,
They will upload what they had for breakfast, lunch, supper, snack, in between. They'll upload it all to Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be able to look at pictures of their milkshakes from now till the end of time.
That's right.
Aren't you thrilled about that?
Absolutely. I see that. Absolutely.
We had to endure our first selfie stick at the farm a little while ago.
Oh, you did?
A red letter day.
More dangerous than the longhorn.
Yeah.
Did you laugh them off the property?
Oh, no.
Tell me the story. What happened? Somebody brought a selfie stick to your farm.
Yes. We do some educational tours, and from the selfie stick was a big moment for us, as you might imagine.
I would just add in a positive on the millennials. Some of our research shows they are interested in sustainable food, they are interested in environment and animal welfare, and they're willing to pay for it. They have the coach purse to prove it. So I see an opportunity to have that conversation to say, let's put some more value on our food, and it goes right back to the farm.
Jamie, how do you look ahead at the future, and what do you see?
Yeah, I see a lot more people spending more time in the kitchen. I think time, how we spend our time is under the microscope. I see us not eating so high on the hog.
All these puns are really something. We
Yeah,
heard somebody,
But
Anita
they
talked about silos, and you're talking about high off the hog, and here we
But
go.
they come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Eating high on the hog. So less, sorry Brian, probably less protein-centric plate of food in front of us. It's already happening. I mean, I mentioned to you last time we spoke, this is the year of the pulse. We have many more people interested in vegetables, plant-based foods, taking more center stage. When we understand how much it takes to raise an animal, the calorie intake of an animal over time, we place a higher value on that. I'm not saying to take it away from the diet entirely, but that it's going to occupy a smaller place, or it's going to become more of a special thing. You know, the third plate deals with that. The book written by Dan Barber, a colleague and a great thinker on food and the future of food, is saying exactly that.
Josh, now take the last 30.
I hope that it takes us, particularly here in Southern Ontario, to a place of increased resilience. Right? There's a lot of talk around us from places where we are importing food. The system is starting to break down, right? And I would really love us to invest ourselves in figuring out how we can fortify our food system here, our system of production, processing, sales, distribution, cooking, all that, so that we are more resilient, so that we can do a better job of taking care of ourselves.
Sovereignty.
One thing will never change. These programs are 60 minutes long, and our time is up. It's really good of you guys to join us here at the University of Guelph today. We're really grateful to Sylvain Charlebois and Crystal Mackay, Brian Gilvesi, Court des Hotels, and of course our 2 Monday regulars, Jamie Kennedy and Joshna Maharaj. Terrific of all of you to come to the university today and help us out with this.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.